you a home grower looking for a little bit of help? Are you ready to learn as much as you can about your favorite hobby? The Homegrown Helpers brings you informative interviews from experienced growers that have taken the next steps in their journey and decided to help you grow top quality cannabis all in your home. Now welcome in our host, Rob Smith, along with this week's Homegrown Helper. And welcome to another week of Home Grower Education. I'm your host, Rob Smith, and I'm so happy that you're able to join me here today. On the line this week, I have a great interview that I think all the new growers out there are really going to be able to identify with. We've really tailored this interview around those beginner lessons, really getting started. When I talked with Rick, our guest from Michigan today, when I first started talking with him, I really found some gold in him talking about those early experiences and how important learning and that transition, into growing cannabis was for him. And I can't wait for you to hear his story and how he shares. And the important part of it is, we really try and keep things centered around growing great cannabis on a budget. There are so many questions that we get here at Growcast and the Homegrown Helpers that is like, I'm worried about starting, I'm worried about making mistakes, I'm worried about money. Well, the questions that we ask and the conversations that we get into this interview should take a lot of those fears away, because you don't have to invest a bunch of money. Rick does a pretty good job at explaining how he got to the point that he is without spending a bunch of money and keeping things on a budget and a little more on the cheaper end. Besides all that, we also talk about, some basic training techniques. And then we get into a good discussion about autoperiod or autoflower plants versus photoperiod plants. And, why Rick is so staunchly behind autoflowers, and he kind of convinces me a little bit to switch over there. So really glad, Rick and I got together, and I'm glad to finally be able to get this podcast out to you guys, because what's been happening is I'm a little behind. I got a bunch of interviews stockpiled, which is great because life's been crazy with this whole COVID quarantine thing right now, and I hope you guys are all staying safe out there. But I haven't scheduled new interviews because I'm still like 6-7 interviews behind, and I owe my guests a little more timely publishing than that. So if you have applied, don't worry, I will get to you. I promise. I just haven't sent out any emails. If you haven't applied, I still want to chat with you. Go to thehomegrownhelpers.com/apply, fill out our questionnaire, fill out the form. I want to hear from growers just like you. My audience wants to hear from growers just like you. So fill out the form. Don't be shy. Come on over and let's have a chat. Share your stories, share your advice. Before I get you in an interview with Rick, I do want to talk to you about our longtime partner, Sohum Soils. SohumSoils.com. Use the code GROWCAST10 to save yourself 10% off their premium water-only soil. And by water only, you don't need to do anything else. My one tip of advice would be, or two, I guess, is to don't put clones directly into Sohum soil or seedlings or whatever. You really need to go with more of an inert, not so hot soil. And then make sure that you up pot and go from your 1 or 3 gallon pot during veg up to a 5 or 7 through flower to make sure that you have enough nutrients to get you all the way through and you don't need to supplement. But that's my one tip of advice, or 2 tips of advice for growing with Sohum soils. Code GROWCAST10 at checkout, SohumSoils.com. Save yourself 10%. Now let's get you over to this great interview with Rick, and I hope you guys enjoy all these tips from a fairly new grower in Michigan. All right, and we are here with another fantastic episode of the Homegrown Helpers. I'd like to welcome into the show Rick Martinez from Michigan. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Welcome. I'm really stoked to have you here today and share a little bit of your grow knowledge. But before we dive into the grow advice, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and your history with cannabis.
Yeah, my name is Rick. I'm from Arizona. Basically raised there all my life. I wasn't too big into cannabis, really. I was in the military, like right out of high school at 19, and did my 8 years. And then afterwards, there wasn't a lot of help for troops and stuff coming back to transition into the civilian life. So my fiance, she used cannabis and I didn't. And I was drinking and I didn't like cannabis at all because it was illegal and I didn't see benefits until one day she was like, really, you need to, and to calm down, it would help. For 8 years we've been together. I finally tried it. I quit drinking. I quit smoking cigarettes because of this plant. And I'm telling you, this plant saves lives. And so I became a grower. Well, we moved out here while they were voting for it to pass recreational and came to Michigan. And I was like, I'm a grow plant. So we're here.
Is that why you guys moved to Michigan?
Well, not really. She has family out here,
Okay.
and
Okay.
and it's better for the kids. Really, the housing market is perfect. Out there, it's like the next California. Houses are like almost $500,000 for like a shed,
Right.
and I was like, no, we got to go where we can get some land and we can grow, and kids could, visit their family and grow up with them.
So the cannabis legalization status was, just a cherry on top, so to speak.
Oh man, yeah, because I was using cannabis maybe like 6 months before, and then she's originally from here, and she was saying, "Hey, Michigan is going to pass it where it's recreationally legal and you could grow." So we've been watching it for those months, and I was like, you know what? We're going to buy a house anyway, so let's let's just pack stuff up and save money. And when it passed, that's when we got the U-Haul and drove all the way out here.
Well, good for you guys. So, are you a caregiver or are you just growing for your own personal or medical consumption?
No, right now, I want to be a caregiver. Just have to get things in order.
Yep.
And we're renting right now before we actually buy. So I don't want to with my landlord too much into it.
Sure.
But
Sure.
yeah, when we buy, I definitely want to get my card and start helping because this plant really does save lives, and I want to help as much as I can in this community.
Well, awesome. Really appreciate you sharing your history there. I love hearing from people and how cannabis has gotten them off prescription medication, or like in your case, helped you kick a much more harmful and addictive substance in alcohol and tobacco. So, congratulations on that success and thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the local scene and I think most listeners know we just had an interview. One of our first interviews we posted was with Matt from Michigan. So, cannabis is recreationally legal in Michigan. But what's the local scene like there? Are there pop-up sessions where, you can go and meet some growers and buy some, not legal market type thing? Like, what's the scene like there in legal Michigan?
Yeah, I see a lot of events on when I go to Google and stuff looking for stuff to do around my area, but they're all like in Detroit or Ann Arbor. I'm way like on the border of Canada, Port Huron area,
Okay.
and it's not like they don't have it recreationally legal like for stores or events or stuff like that. Up here, you have to drive all the way to Ann Arbor or Detroit. But I do see on Instagram and Google, there's a lot of events. They'll pop up. I saw that they had a grow off with, I know Spartan Grown, he's from Michigan. He just won this grow off. And I didn't even know about it. I guess it happened like last year. But there's like more and more of those like events and stuff popping up. And I guess you just have to look for them or know somebody, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if there's not events around you, there's only one way to change that, Rick, and that's start organizing some events, get some growers and some smokers together, and start talking about weed and be the change you wish to see in the world, right?
Oh man, my wife tells me to shut up sometimes because I can't stop talking about it. But but there's like I guess I just have to go out more. I'm like introverted, but this community, like talking with people on Instagram, they're so open and inviting with so much information. It's like man, I never met so many people besides like people in the military. They were so open and like it's like a brotherly bond, like sisters and brothers in arms,
Well, for people that don't know why it's like that, when it's such a large group of people that have been breaking the law for so long and done time and had to be concerned about getting arrested every day, whether it was growing the plant or supplying the plant to people in need.
Yeah.
Personally, I've been doing that for 20 years. So I've met a lot of people that, have that camaraderie of like, hey, we could be in a really shitty situation together. Like, let's stick together and help each other out as much as we can. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, as legalization comes along, that camaraderie, that community is getting diluted a little bit because people aren't concerned about going to jail and are getting into it because they don't have those concerns as much. And some of those legacy folk, and rightfully so, I think, are having a hard time letting those people in just because we've been around for a long time and been doing
Yeah.
this, and I say we, and I'm young in the game. I know people that have been doing this for 40 or 50 years, and I have such deep respect for the risks that they took over the years trying to continue to spread this plant and get people some medicine.
Yeah,
So
and those are the guys that paved the way.
yeah, man.
I appreciate those guys and women too. They paved the way for now to be a little bit more open. I know they have that you gotta watch your back kind of feeling still, because you can't really trust too many people, but the community alone, like getting some information from old timers that have been growing for years, it's like, man, you can't find that online. That
Right. Yeah.
you
Yeah. I
know.
still, position myself in such a way in smoking circles so that, my back is against a wall and I'm looking out just in case, the 5-0 comes rolling around the corner, even though we're legally consuming in some places. And if not, like smoking in Boston or whatever, we're a little more open than we ever have been before, but it's still the risk of getting hassled and dealing with a fine or whatever. So,
Hmm.
Rick, let's dive into the grow advice. Enough chatting about the old days here.
All right.
You wanted to talk about helping new growers keep their grow affordable while still producing some quality medicine. So, why don't you take the mic and just run with that for a little while and talk about growing some quality affordable cannabis.
Okay. Yeah, I started off when we got out here with like no knowledge whatsoever. I swear I thought it was just put the seed in the soil and put some water on it and in the light, and it'll grow. But it's a little bit more complicated to that, especially if you have like no money. You gotta get stuff piece it out piece by piece. Get some soil and you can get bag feed as like a lottery, man. I That's what I started off with, and I had some success with it. My first 2 to 3, but that last one I did the cocoa for cannabis New Year's grow, and man, I lost. I got a male on one and a Hermie on the second one, and then my last one I had to cut it down because of we're starting a new grow. But yeah, your genetics, like might as well just save up money on genetics. Like you can find some on Instagram or some seed banks that are reputable and get like maybe $30 and you can sometimes get free seeds and then you can grow them out. You know, that's affordable. That's in your price range, and a light is needed. You know, you can get an LED light from like Amazon, but those are really not all that great. That's what I started off with, and I got okay quality, you know, and you can get them for like $30 to $40 now, and you get those blurple lights. It gets the job done, but it's not like you can get more, you know. It's a Prius, I guess you can say. You can get more horsepower if you wanted. But just to get started, an LED light, some genetics, soil. I wouldn't really recommend Miracle Grow because that stuff, the nutrients in that is really hot, so your plant would struggle.
And plus, you're supporting the devil. I have to chime in there.
Yeah,
Scott's Miracle Grow, if you're supporting them, it's Monsanto and Bayer, and
yeah,
don't support them.
Ooh.
So
No, you definitely don't want to. That's a whole different story right there. Yeah, just get some soil, like an okay soil, and you can get going. Oh, and a dedicated grow spot. You know, you can do it most like I did in the closet. I guess everybody does it in the closet, but that's like the best spot to start off with if you have no money or nothing. It's like a closet, and then I moved on to like a tent, and it gets better from there. You just start saving up, but yeah, you gotta start somewhere and start networking with people that help you out. I didn't get any of that when I first started, but you know, there's a ton of people out there that's willing to help you out in your grows. And I see some first time growers now, and I'm like, man, they did amazing on their first time growing. I'm gonna follow them for the rest of the time, you know.
well, cool, man. I think those are all really great tips, and I think it's worth going down this rabbit hole a little bit with you. And you mentioned some really key points there that I just want to expound upon.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, lots of people want to buy the best of the best or invest a ton of money and are kind of using that as a reason or an excuse not to get started. And
No, that's what scares them.
Exactly.
The price to get started, and then they just like, you know what, I might as well just pay the dispensary price. No, you can still get good quality from like being cheap. My wife calls me cheap all the time. I'm a penny pincher.
Yeah, but you're not gonna like. I think what I'd like to interject here is if you're starting off on the lower end of equipment, don't expect to be growing the same quality of cannabis that, you know, the Jungle Boys or Kyle Cushman or Danny Danko or any of those guys are posting up on their Instagram feeds, because these guys have been growing cannabis for a long, long time and have invested a ton of time and effort and money into growing this type of cannabis. So don't, you know, get that Instagram envy when you're just starting off. Understand
that's another thing that scares people too.
Yeah, everybody wants to grow the greatest cannabis, and it's a process.
Yeah.
So just kind of like you were talking about with buying equipment, that can be a process too. Like if I were to tell you to invest or advise you to invest and save up for any one thing when it came to growing cannabis, it would be first your lights, and much like Rick hinted to, and then second, just like Rick hinted to, was genetics. And everything else can kind of be done really inexpensively and, you know, not cheaply, but, you know, not of poor quality, but done really, really on the low end.
Oh, yeah. You can look online and see a lot of DIY stuff too, because I guess when guerrilla growers were doing it, you know, stoners, they DIY a lot of stuff and it works.
Totally. Totally.
And it will save your money. And you can find that on like YouTube to build stuff. And
go to the dump and get an old refrigerator or, you know, an old chest freezer and turn it on its side, you know?
Yeah, Habitat of Humanity Riza Rich, I saw one of his posts, and he went to one of those, and there was like gross stuff all over the place at one of those.
Yeah, at the Restore for Habitat Humanity, where they sell the bigger stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways to do it on the cheap end, and think about this as like, hey, if in your first grow you spend, $200, but you get 2 ounces in today's dispensary prices, or even black market prices, that's $400 to $600.
Mm-hmm.
So you've saved yourself $150, $200 right there on the low end,
and a headache.
And waiting time, and you get the enjoyment of growing. But just, monetarily speaking, now you can take that money that you saved of not buying that cannabis and now go buy a tent or better soil or different nutrients. And then, the next time maybe you'll get 3 or 4 ounces out of it. And then you're saving, $600 or $800. Now go buy a cloning machine and a better light, and top of the line soil and better pots and that type of stuff, and work your way up. And, within a year of growing and saving money, you could have a really, really nice grow and be growing some really awesome cannabis. Would you agree with that, Rick?
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I have not been to a dispensary since I got here, and I avoid it. I've seen pictures of people's receipts in the taxes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It tastes good, but I rather just grow it myself because I know what I'm putting in it,
Totally. And yeah, dispensaries are a nice treat where, hey, I, got my tax refund. I'm going to go get a nice gram or 2 of oil that I can't get on my own, something that tastes really, really nice.
Get that off.
Yeah, something like that, some nice cold pressed organic hash rosin or something like that. I don't know, man. I don't even know if you guys have that stuff up there in Michigan yet. I imagine somewhere.
Oh, they have all kinds of stuff, but like I said, I haven't been to a dispensary. I want to do it all myself too, but oh man, you made my mouth water.
So Rick, why don't you give our audience first? Let's take a quick break to thank our MyGrowPass.com partners for the show, and when we get back, we'll let Rick talk about his tips for increasing yield and help you get from that 1 or 2 ounces in your first harvest up to that 2 or 4, and then the 4 and 6. And we'll also talk about Rick's biggest learning opportunity or failure in the garden.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get back to it right after this quick mention from our partner. All right. Today, I got to tell you about another giveaway we're doing. That's right. Every 2 weeks, we are giving away another set of products to our listeners. This week, it's from one of our MyGrowPass.com partners, the Trim Bag. If you haven't seen this thing in action, even if you have, I bet you're going to be skeptical the first time that you see it. This thing has blown me away every time that I've seen it in action, whether it's online or in person at a trade show. I mean, you guys know my history. I've owned a trimming machine business, so I'm not afraid of machine trim products. What I was afraid of was using a bag and tossing my buds around constantly to trim it. But what I've seen is very minimal trichome loss, if any. And these buds come out 90+% to hand trim quality. The thing it doesn't do a great job with, the trim bag that is, doesn't do a great job with the kickstands, the crow's feet, the harder, stockier stems from fan leaves, essentially. But besides that, this trim bag gets up to 2 pounds of product trimmed within just a few minutes and some shakes and some arm motions and some moving around. So head on over to trimbag.com, use code GROWCAST, get yourself $30 off a trim bag and free shipping, as well as head on over to growcastpodcast.com/giveaway, the link in our Instagram bio, the linktr.ee/growcast, which is the worst URL for me to try to say. Enter in your information, enter in the giveaway. We're giving away a trim bag, 2 weeks, drawing it on the 20th or the 21st, one of those two dates, whatever it is. But head on over to trimbag.com, check it out, check out their videos. You won't be disappointed. They do great Instagram stuff. Find them, find us, enter, and we appreciate you all. Thanks so much. And let's kick it back to this interview with Rick. And welcome back. We've been going deep on keeping things affordable and some advice for the new growers out there that might, be a little overwhelmed by spending a lot of money and use that as a reason to not get started. And hopefully you take that advice and just get out there and start growing, because it's really not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rick, let's bring the audience some more grow advice and share with them your steps on increasing yield to help them save a little more money at the dispensary.
Okay, first I wanted to say, when you pick your genetics, I started off with photoperiods, but now they have autoflowers out, and autoflowers, to me, I just stocked up on a bunch of them because I've seen how easy they are to grow. And for a beginner, I think that would be the best spot to start, because you can keep it on the same light schedule throughout the whole grow, and it would just flower on its own. You don't have to tinker with the little timer. So when you're first growing, I think that will probably, you want to make it simple, I think finding the right genetics for autoflowers would be beneficial for you when you start off. That way you don't have to tinker with the light schedule, what's 12-12, and you can just keep the light on 18/6, 24 hours, whatever best fits your electric bill, whatever light you fix, because autoflowers can basically grow under any light, and they would just go and bud on their own. And anyways, if you want to increase your yield, I use low stress training.
Well,
and
Rick, can I interject here just for a second?
Yes.
I think you have some great advice on autoflowers, but if we're talking about increasing yield, we do need to let people know, just in case they weren't, that some of these techniques aren't necessarily used with autoflowers because...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't have that much time to...
Right.
You got a time period.
Yeah, I mean, some autoflowers are fully flowered in 50, 60, 70 days. Some are 100, some are 120. But essentially, you want to use your veg time to manipulate and grow out the plant, and that's not always a viable option for autoflowers.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, let's get back to advice for increasing yields, mostly to be used on photoperiod plants.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, so when you want to, in your veg, your 18/6 light schedule, you want to do most of your training in that time. I do low stress training and I top when I grow photoperiods. And I found that to be the most beneficial. My first grow, I just did low stress training and I got a couple ounces out of that one. And then after I tried topping on the next one and then low stress training, I got even more, and you just got to try one thing at a time and see if it changes. Don't change too much, because you won't know what you changed. So I just added the topping to that second grow, and it added more tops, and I want to try on my next photoperiod run, I want to try the trellis net on 2 plants in my 2x4, and just do just the trellis net and no topping, just let it grow and see how that goes, and see if I want to keep that technique. You just got to find which one works for you. But those training techniques for the beginners to increase your yield are the best ones. Low stress training, photo periods, you can top them. When you top them, you got to top them from a certain node, and then you can keep going depending on how many you get, shoots you get, and trellis nets. I heard that was beneficial. that will spread out the top canopy. That way the colas are at a nice even level for the light to penetrate all the way through. And I think it's called Sea of Green, or is that Sea of Green, where they have like a bunch, like 50 to 100 small plants?
Yep, that's sea of green.
Yeah, I seen that one too, but that one was just, that's a little too much for a new grower. Like, unless they want to give it a shot, I'm planting 50 seeds and popping them in the flower like what, a month later. That's that's one way to increase your yields, is having that many. You just have like a bunch of little colas.
Yeah, I mean the downside of that is we're all limited by legal plant count, so
Yeah, that one.
we don't
Yeah,
want to encourage people like I'm a big believer in they've given us the legal right to grow plants. Let's stick within
oh
those
yeah,
limits.
you don't want to abuse that, because
Yeah,
that one person could just
ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like in here in Michigan, it's 12. I'm appreciative of that. 12 plants growing. That that's better than what I heard in any other state. Chicago, what is it, 4 in Chicago?
I think it's 5, but only for medical patients. They don't have their recreational cannabis program isn't allowing for home grow, which is unfortunate. All you people in Illinois need to stand up and fight for your rights there. So, a couple thoughts about what you said there, Rick. That and this first one, I've never ever had the thought about before, but sticking with the theme of keeping things on the inexpensive side for new growers is autoflowers are amazing for new growers. I think they're a really great place to start off, especially where they are now. You don't have to worry about light leaks and schedules and so on and so forth. But autoflowers you can't clone. So, if you're really looking to keep things on the cheaper side of things, you're always buying new seeds.
Yeah.
It's also harder to replicate quality medicine. Like if you find that one plant that, treats your pain or your insomnia really well, you can't necessarily duplicate that in the next pack of seeds or the next 5-pack of seeds. But it's also expensive because you're buying more seeds, right?
Yeah, you're buying more seeds and you're paying for the shipping and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't, man, that's an argument. Like, you get like photoperiods and autos, they both have their pros and cons.
Totally.
If you're like limited with time, and like myself with like kids, and I work early in the morning, I just want it like straightforward, just pop a seed, let's let it go. I want to try it. I did the photo periods, and man, let me tell you, I'm in that garden for like hours, and my kids are like, they're tired, they're ready to go.
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to see like how it goes with autoflowers, if it changes up, my perspective on like time and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, that'll probably be the best to go. But yeah, that's they both have their pros and cons. If you just want something simple, like just straightforward, it's your medicine. I would argue an autoflower would probably be best.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about clones from somebody else or that are like dirty. Or I know you can do your own clones, but that's more equipment you gotta buy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, cutting clones can be done extremely, extremely cheaply. Some Jiffy pellets and some rooting hormone is really all you need. You can create a dome. But, I think we're getting away from it. I totally agree with you. Autoflowers are great for beginners. They definitely have their pros and cons, but they've come a long, long way recently.
Oh, yeah.
I want to circle back and ask you if you had any advice, some practical tips for listeners for doing the low stress training. Like what type of stuff do you use that, is more on the frugal or the cheaper, inexpensive end to do that low stress training?
Okay, I use pipe cleaners, the little fuzzy pipe cleaners that you get like in an art supply store or the dollar store. I got them. When I first started off, I stolen from my daughter, and she was doing
Doesn't
a
get any
little
cheaper than
exercise.
that.
Yeah. So she already had a bunch of them. They had all different colors. So I was like, I'm going to try them out. And I was able to poke a little hole through the sides of them. I had fabric pots, and I tied them up, and I was able to bend down the branches, to spread it out so the light could penetrate. But yeah, you can use rubber bands, a little yarn you can do, to stay cheap. You can get all that stuff at the dollar store, stationery, and you just want to make sure that you don't get anything that would be like cutting into the branches themselves, because the plant will grow over that. And ooh, man, I had one branch grow over. I was using these little metal rods, and I was sticking them on the side because I ran out of those pipe cleaners. And man, like within 2 days, that branch grew over it, like it like knuckled just about. And so I had to like basically almost break that branch off because it grew over that piece of metal. Yeah, you just don't want to you want to make sure it has enough room to like grow, because it's going to get bigger and stronger, and you don't want to have it too tight on the branch itself.
Awesome. So, one of our last questions here. Yeah, definitely one of our last questions here. Let's talk about, one of your biggest opportunities for learning, or, some people might refer to it as a failure or a mistake. Talk about that opportunity for learning and how you overcame it, and kind of, put things in place so that didn't happen again.
Yeah, everybody's not perfect. You got to have failures to learn from them so you can, grow from it. And my very first grow, I had 3 seeds from a bag out here, and I put them in the soil, and I didn't have the light schedule. I left that thing on for like 24 hours. And they weren't growing. I wasn't watering right. I didn't have no information on how to grow. Like there was no heat, and we just moved out here, and it was in November, so it was cold. So I didn't know that the plant needed to be warm, and so getting the failing that first grow and watching those plants die, you get that gut feeling, like that gut punch of like, man, I'm just gonna give it up and just throw it all away. But if you just collect yourself and breathe, like plants die every day, and you can bring them back. You can go and get some more seeds and start right over. Just get your information, like start taking notes. If you take notes, you won't make those mistakes. Like, what did I do wrong on this one? Oh, it was too cold in the closet. So just start making notes on like what you did different, one by one. Oh, I put a blanket over it. Oh, I gained what, 3, 4 degrees. Now the plants are good, the roots can grow. And you start learning stuff like that once you go online or find a mentor or something to help you out. And they would some people would just, guide you in the right direction. But taking notes and failing, that's the only way that you can be a successful grower. But, you have to have that open mindset. You can't be like, oh, I know everything. I know this and that. No, I did that the first time, and let's just say I killed plants. Yeah, you got to have an open mind. You don't know everything. You just take the knowledge in and just learn it and see if it works for you, and you do really good.
So that's really great stuff. Thank you for, bringing that to light with us. For new growers to take something, like that one liner away from that experience, how would you summarize that? And how would you summarize that in order to overcome it, or help a new grower kind of lessen that learning curve?
Oh, from like failing of like killing your plants, and then how you move on from that?
Yeah, more specifically to like, why or how you killed your plants.
Oh, yeah, that one. I overwatered my plants.
Okay.
I that's one of the first, like one of the main causes of new growers is overwatering. There's like numbers of them, like for new growers,
Sure,
but
totally.
yeah, you just gotta, like, when you water, you gotta remember it's a living thing. You don't want to drown it. Just that's what I did, and I wasn't thinking about it. I'm just ready to get in there and just like, come on, grow so I can get some weed out of it. But it's not it. This plant is it's a plant. It's more than it's. I guess you could say it's more than that, but you gotta take your time. Once you're patient, and this plant will do wonders for you. You gotta do the work, and the plant will give back to you twofold.
So I was kind of thinking, like, planning or failing to plan is planning to fail type of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
when you're telling the story, it was, you were telling me like, I left the light on for 24 hours. I really didn't know what I was doing. I just threw these seeds in the soil and I thought they were going to grow. And then I did research and I found out how I failed. I would suggest to new growers, like, do a little bit of research, at least for, like, do that research for germinating, figure out the process that you want to follow, and maybe understand what happens for those first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
After the seed pops, so that you're ahead of the learning curve. So you can start the germination, you can start growing the plant, and then while you're growing the plant, then you're learning what happens in the next 2 weeks. So like weeks 2 and to 4, and then 4 to 6, and then what happens in those first couple weeks of flower type of thing.
Yeah, that's the good way is getting the information all together, and that plant will grow fast depending on genetics. And so getting all your information together and like throughout the whole life cycle, I didn't know what a bloom was until I looked it up.
Right.
Yeah.
So, part of what we try and do here at Growcast and the Homegrown Helpers, specifically on this show, what I try and do is lessen that learning curve for new growers and help them get 3 months into their, growing journey in 3 days so that they can get to that successful level or feel confident level quicker than what you did, Rick, where you were learning as you were going. So try and, mitigate a little bit of that. So thanks for sharing those opportunities. There was a lot of gold stuff there.
Yeah, no problem. I just hope everybody, like, they learn from their mistakes, don't get down about it.
But also learn from other people's mistakes. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, learn from them.
Right.
Take note.
So, Rick, why don't you wrap us up here with any last bits of advice or, words of wisdom that you'd like to bestow upon our little community here?
Yeah. Just take your guys' time when you start growing, and respect the plant. It will respect you, and you guys, you do really well. The community is great. Reach out, grab a book, take notes. There's all kinds of tips you can get from everybody. Just learn, have an open mind. The community, like I said, it's a great tool, and I hope we overcome that stigma of just being a bunch of stoners, but we're a bunch of like smart ones to grow this plant, not to go out to dispensaries and paying hundreds of, But yeah, take your time, be patient, and if you fail, just collect yourself and try it again.
Good stuff. And where can our audience, find you and follow along with your growing journey?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at grams.house, grams.house, HOUSE.
I've wondered, since we've been going back and forth on emails, is that like a play on like grams and ounces and
oh no.
Okay. Like
no,
when like your email's like house of grams or something like that, and I was like, well,
no,
dude, like puts it
out
my
there. Grandmother.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Grams, yeah, we call her grams. Eh?
I was like ounces house, eighths house, like dude slinging grams.
Yeah, and I thought about it, and I was like, after I made it, I was like, oh man, now everybody's gonna like coincide it with weed.
Right. That's exact. Like we're talking weed. Your email's like homograms, houseograms, something like that. Your Instagram's Graham's house. I'm like, dude puts it out there that he, like stop by for a gram every once in a while. No big deal. Well, all right, Rick. I really appreciate your time. Audience, thanks so much for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. And audience, thanks so much for listening. Find us at the Homegrown Helpers on Instagram. If you want to apply to be on the show, it's thehomegrownhelpers.com/apply. And make sure you smash that subscribe button, share the show, rate, review. It's the way that we can help more people just like you. So that's it for us. Happy growing, guys, and we'll catch you next time.